Hello, everybody, and welcome to the ALS United Mid-Atlantic Goals podcast. I'm Tony Heil with ALS United Mid-Atlantic, and if you listen to our past episodes, you know we've covered various perspectives on ALS, from people living with ALS to caregivers, staff here at ALS United Mid-Atlantic, researchers, advocates, and even people with other diseases or from other groups where we can collaborate towards our mutual goal of funding disease research and science and coming together to support everybody who's affected by a disease like ALS. I'm really proud of the people we get to work with here at ALS United Mid-Atlantic. We have such a great team of nurses and social workers who are on the direct line of care. We also have great staff beyond that, and board members and volunteers, but the people who you see at clinics have extensive knowledge and background of working in direct care. And today I'm really happy to talk with my friend Jessie Meier. We were recently at a bowling event together, and if you're on video, you see I did win the Strike Artist Award. So that is
yes, there you go.
Happiest awards I've had. Jessie has a better award because she's such a great caregiver and social worker for people with ALS in the Lehigh Valley and beyond in a lot of ways. So she has worked at our ALS United Mid-Atlantic Treatment Center at Lehigh Valley Health Network for many years, both as a member of our team officially and even as another social worker with the clinic before that. So she understands ALS very well. She has a great connection with our patients and families. And today we're going to learn about that and about how you can get involved in the ALS United block. Jessie, thanks for talking today.
Thanks, Tony. You're making me blush, all this nice stuff. Yes, thank you. It is a privilege to be here and to work at this amazing organization. We have fun. We go bowling. See, we don't just talk about ALS. We do things like bowling.
Yeah, before we get into the actual conversation, I think that is really important. I was talking with Alaire, our mental health professional from her team, and she said it's very important to turn off ALS sometimes, whether you are a staff member, a volunteer, or a caregiver. It is important to get those mental breaks. As a social worker, I'm sure you see that all the time too, that as serious as this disease is, we all need to look out for our own mental health as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's, people say that all the time. They're like, to us, you probably get it too. It's like, how do you do that? Like, how do you work with this disease? It must be so depressing. It must be so sad. And there are parts of it that are absolutely that. And I think that the way we get through that is with a team. Like, you have to have a team of people, like from ALS United Mid-Atlantic, from your clinic team to, your family, your friends. Like, it's really important to know that you're not carrying it all alone. Right. And I think the same goes for our patients, right? Because they can't turn it off. Like, they can't not live with it. But they tell us all the time that, like, the more they feel normal and are doing things that just make them feel connected in a way like that, where how life was before ALS, right? Like going to games, doing things that make them just feel connected and normal, right? We all need those moments. We need to have joy, right? Have joy.
Yeah, I think that's true no matter who you are, because your life shouldn't all be one thing. Even if that one thing is good, like your life shouldn't all just be about your kids or about your spouse or about your job, because those things, for one reason or another, even for good reasons, can go away. Your spouse may be on vacation for a bit, so that's not a negative. But then, what do you do?
No, just kidding.
But because you have other things you like you're like, oh, I'm going to watch these movies I like, or I'm going to go and do this activity. So if you're all wrapped up in one thing, whether it's a challenge or positive, then it puts a lot of weight on your shoulders and a lot of stress.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that is something that I've been so impressed with and proud of, being connected or being a part of this team at ALS United, this family, because I think, or I know that they see these folks we get to meet, these families, these, they're not just a patient, right? Like they are people. Their whole person is and yes, this is what connects us to them. These three letters, ALS, but they're people who have families and stories and lives and hobbies. We were just talking about that, like all these amazing things that I think that sets us apart, is that we really get in the nitty gritty with people and like learn who they are as a whole person. And that's where the beauty happens, the connection, the friendships, the stories, the laughter, and I think it's unique to us, and people will tell us that. They say, like, this is what you guys do is different. It's special.
Yeah, and I know that when people come to us, it's only after a diagnosis. And people with ALS, as anyone listening to this knows, people with ALS live just on average 2 to 5 years from diagnosis, some longer. I know
Mm-hmm.
people who have had ALS for over 15 years, which is rare. But
Mm-hmm.
sadly, some even shorter time periods. I know people who sadly passed away after months after diagnosis, and but they had their whole lives before that, and so we don't want to discount the entirety of their lives at the most difficult time of their life. And you guys, whether it's you or Melissa and Ann or Gail or the others in our care services team, you really understand the people portion of that very well and make those connections.
Oh, thanks. It's a privilege. It really is, and it's fun. We have a good time.
So it's about that connection. I think if you're listening to this, you realize how easy it is for anyone to talk with our social workers and nurses. I recently had a medical appointment, and now I'm just used to talking to nurses and social workers. Well, I was just talking with the nurses like they were my best friend. Um, and but it also came naturally to you to join ALS United Mid Atlantic because you'd already been working with our ALS population before then. So tell us how you came to join us officially.
Yes. So I got my master's in social work, and I didn't really know like what I wanted to work in. As a social worker, I think one of the beauties of it is there are so many different populations you can work with. You can work with youth, you can work with elderly, you can work with disease specialties, you can work in housing. I mean, there's just so many different areas you could, which is what drew me to it. So I worked in an oncology nonprofit for a little bit. So working with folks who had, various cancers. And when I moved to the Lehigh Valley, I ended up in Lehigh Valley Hospital at neurology, and met Dr. Mackin, who was the doctor who, with ALS, our organization founded the clinic over at Lehigh Valley. And he just sort of like took me under his wing and said, we need a social worker in our clinic team. And I'll never forget him saying to me in the interview, he said, you're not going to believe me when I say this, but the ALS patients, you're going to meet a lot of patients working in neurology, right? You're going to meet patients who have all various different diseases, but they are the kindest folks on the planet. And I remember thinking to him, like, yeah, you're right. How could you say that? But it did not take long for me to know exactly what he was talking about. And so I was at the hospital for 6-ish years, functioning as the social worker in neurology. But my favorite part of what I got to do was be a part of the clinic. So I partnered with Dr. Mackin and all the team, the therapists, and Wendy, our beloved Wendy, who was the Lehigh Valley social worker for our organization. And she taught me everything I know about ALS. And so we got to work so closely hand in hand. And then when she moved to South Carolina, she had, said to me, our families, come meet our team and see if this would work out. And it was a dream. I mean, I had always, ever since I met her, I was like, that would be my dream job, is like just to be able to work with ALS families. And so I still, and I say this in our meetings often, I'm like, I just pinch myself sometimes that this is actually, I get to do something I love so much with a team that I love so much. So yeah, so that's how I got here, and I've been here with ALS United. I think this is my 4th year. So yeah,
Yeah, for
it's
me, it feels like you've been here for so long because you basically were even before it became official. And it
yeah,
was a relief to a lot of us. I know that when Wendy left us, she still is supporting people with ALS where she is now. It's so important to her, and we appreciate all she's done. But when Wendy was no longer with us officially, how are you going to find anyone to step into those shoes and to know someone like is joining who takes it seriously, who understands it, and has that same compassion? That's a relief to everyone here.
yeah. I text her sometimes and I'll say, I just say to myself sometimes like, WWWD, what would Wendy do? you know, and but yeah, and so it's a privilege, and I really I love my job.
So, speaking of your job, I've asked our other social workers this on this podcast. What should people know about what your role is as a social worker for our ALS patients and their families? Because you don't just support hundreds of people with ALS, your support goes beyond that to their caregivers and families as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great question. So, and people will often ask us, like when we meet them in clinic, they'll say, so I know what the physical therapist does. They're measuring my strength. I know what the respiratory therapist does. They're testing my breathing. What do you guys do? Um, and so it's a good question. I see us as sort of um, like an arms out kind of person, to help walk these families through whatever pops up. I sometimes think we're also little air traffic controllers. So, like any question they have, I always tell them, like, email me, call me if you're not sure how to navigate insurance. If you have a phone call with a family member that you don't know how to answer their questions, right? They're asking you a lot of questions about ALS and you're overwhelmed by it. Call me. We can talk it through. Um, we talk we talk a lot about sort of the big picture questions that ALS brings up about what does this mean for how I'm going to continue on with the rest of my life? What goals of care do I have? What do I want to do sort of in this time? To the nitty gritty of like, I need a shower chair, right? Like I need actual items to get through the day. So I see us as sort of this landing place where they can bring any question or concern or worry, and we sort of help them sift through it, navigate it, while also uh, while also being this. I feel like it's like a, what's the word? Like a we can also help sit here and say, okay, let's talk about the shower chair. And then let's also talk about what does it mean to have to use a shower chair now? Like this is hard that you can't do your normal routine, or maybe like somebody has to help you take a shower. Like losing that independence is really tough, right? So I feel like as a social worker, our eyes are always there to kind of help answer the question, and then also sort of be this safe place to explore sort of the feeling side of what this all brings up for people. And that's where I sort of see our magic, as
Mm-hmm.
social workers, is sort of having that psychological background as well to be able to kind of just gently go there with folks if they want to.
Yeah, I really appreciate that because I know that when you have a diagnosis of ALS, you don't know what you don't know. Because why would you? Like most people who
Mhm.
you meet through the clinic, they did not have a family history of ALS, and even if they did, maybe it was more separate. It wasn't as close, and things have changed. So they don't even know what questions to ask not because they're not smart, but if you threw me into a mechanic's office, I wouldn't know how to fix a transmission. I wouldn't even know to think about it, and
Right.
because it's not my expertise. So you're there to help kind of guide them along with the questions they might have, and then it kind of branches out from there.
Right. And I also think something we do, and this ties into like our earlier conversation about like having the privilege of meeting these folks who have a whole life, before ALS, is I think a lot of what we do is be this connection for these folks to other folks living with ALS, right? So,
Mhm.
like, a lot of times I find myself saying to families, like, I know this feels like this is this is hearing this news. It is horrible. It is awful. And I want you to know that, like, you are going to keep living life with ALS. Like, you're still going to have joyful moments, and you're still going to laugh, and like, and here's the amazing things that our folks living with ALS continue to do, and we share stories about other families, and then sometimes we make connections with them, and they want to meet each other, and like be in community with people who are, yes, they have this news and it's awful, and the things that they're living with are really tough, but at the same time knowing that they can find friends in that community, who are going through it as well, that gives them hope in a niche of the world where we're told, like, there isn't a whole lot of hope, right? Well, I feel like we kind of defy that by saying, but yeah, but look at these other folks who are continuing to do incredibly amazing things, and I think that's another magical thing that kind of happens, we're these little like connectors, like
Mhm.
I'll be talking to somebody and I'm like, oh my gosh, I know this other guy who used to love word working too, and now his hands aren't working as well, but like they can talk to one another, and like now they're friends, like, so
Yeah.
it's like a little connecting map I think of in my head sometimes of all the people we get to meet.
Yeah, I really appreciate the bonds that you've made with so many of our patients and families. Uh, you've done so many things, whether it's through advocacy or events, and even the podcast you did with our mutual friend Lenny Rafalco, who passed away from
Mhm.
ALS last year. And he did so much with his life since his diagnosis. He was a really interesting person before then, helping design
Mhm.
things and
Yeah.
work in civil engineering in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
And I learned a lot from him, but just by his nature. And you
Yeah.
did too. What was it like working with Lenny for ALS awareness and advocacy? Because you guys did so much together through your podcast.
Yeah. It was it was really special. He really became a friend. Um, and I think that I learned so much from him. I learned about humor, I
Mhm.
learned like how you have to laugh your way through, um, honesty, like there was no BSing around it, like he was really honest about how hard it was,
Mhm.
and the impact that it had on his life and his loved ones. Um, but I think getting to watch his evolution from like receiving this information and like moving through every emotion, there was he was angry in the beginning, and of course he was, right? And then watching him sort of like find a way to channel that into something bigger and something that made him feel purpose and connection. It was just so beautiful, and like how that spurred into Team Lenny's Light, right? And this fundraiser that they do every year that is impacting so many folks currently living with ALS, helping them. And so it's just so it's just it was a beautiful time to, and a really just a gift to watch somebody be able to just take it with grace and kindness, and take any hardship and make it into something you're passionate about, you know? I mean, there's so much that I learned from him. Also, like, my favorite story about him, and I just have to share this because it just makes me laugh, is like one time we were talking about identifying some folks that could benefit from the support from Team Lonnie's Light. And there was somebody that I had mentioned, and I said, oh, I don't know, like, it's really hard to get a hold of this person. And like, we play phone tag all the time, and I don't really know, you know. And he just looked at me and he was like, Jessie, that's a piss poor excuse. And I was like, you're right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so sometimes just having that friend that you can like say something to and just hear back, like, no, like, that's not an excuse. So like, okay, like, you're right. It's not. And so he was just an honest, awesome, funny guy.
And you just recently had the memorial event at Lehigh Valley Health Network, you and Dr. Romano and the others. And it was one of the most moving experiences I've participated in my time here, because you didn't just say, oh, we lost Steve and Lenny and this person and this person. You talked about them as people in a real concrete way. Not like you spent 20 minutes on each person, because sadly you would have been there for a week. But you guys, your team, really make those connections, and everyone seems special to you.
Yeah. Yeah, that was so at Lehigh Valley, we do every 2 years we host a memorial service, and we invite families, you know, who we've had the privilege of knowing from clinic to come back, and we have we ask them to decorate a canvas, like a 10 by something canvas, however they want, however, whether it's pictures, whether it's items that, you know, their loved one loved, just whatever reminds them of the person that they, you know, that they loved with ALS. And it's it's a way for us as a team and as ALS United to honor, to let the families really know like how much they impact us, you know. And it's a way to kind of honor not just that person that they lost, but the whole family, you know, and the whole community. That isn't just family. Sometimes it's friends, sometimes it's neighbors, sometimes it's, you know, it extends outside of that. And so we really see it as an opportunity for us to reconnect with our families and just let them know like how much they touched us as, you know, ALS United and as the Lehigh Valley Clinic. So it was a beautiful, it's healing. I feel like it heals us in some ways too.
When I was listening to you talk about each person, and especially now as you talk about Lenny too, and how he had such purpose in his life after a diagnosis with ALS, I think that for so many people as they get older and, you know, their physical body does not perform in the way it did, you know, that happens with age. Maybe they lose something that you don't get with ALS, because with ALS you have a very keen awareness of your mortality and you know, the time you have on Earth, and how important is purpose to mental health and to physical health, because mental health leads to physical health. And I see that with so many of our patients who work with you and our nurses, that they develop a great purpose in life, and I feel like that ends up enhancing their own physical and health and well-being as well.
Yeah. Oh, it's a great question, Tony. I mean, it's everything. You know, I think if you think about like just how we identify in the world, you know, like all the nouns we would list next to our name, like, you know, mother, friend, daughter, social worker, you know, I'm just thinking of the ones I would like list off, sportsman, like all these things, like it's the action connected to those things that like makes us feel that we're doing them or succeeding them, or that we are, we're living out that role that we play. Right. And so, I think when that action gets limited, or it gets taken away, or it gets muted for some reason. So, we so often meet folks, like I'll never forget our lady Colleen, who we loved so much, as a piano player. She was music was her passion. And she was this music teacher, and she was in shows, and like when she couldn't use her voice anymore and her hands to play the piano, like it brings up all these questions for people about, well, who am I? Right? Like, who am I if I'm not the thing that I've identified, and that's how I see myself in this world, right? And so I think a lot of times, you said it's a beautiful connection you made, and I've never really thought about it in that way, about like how deeply connected to mental health our purpose is. And I think this, like you said, this thing that our ALS families teach us so often is finding purpose, finding new purpose, and creating new purpose, and it's not, I can't do the woodworking that I used to love to do, or I can't run the marathon that's the thing that made me think, or play golf. Lenny loved to play golf, like these things. And it's really having to kind of, they recreate this, who am I in this world? And it's tough. It's tough, and it does make you question, like, what who am I, or who can I be, right? Who can I be? And I think that's the beautiful thing I think we get to see so often, this resilience from our folks with ALS, that, these titles that they once identified themselves as get stripped away. But they don't let that be the thing that, like, defines them. They make a new definition for themselves. It's incredible.
And sometimes it's scary to all of us as you're getting older, whether you were turning 60 or 70 or turning 30,
Yep.
whatever your age, and you're like, oh, it's too late for me to add a new definition into my life. But we're always doing that. At one point I wasn't a father, then I was. At one point
Right.
I wasn't doing this job, and then it's okay. Even in the last months of your life, you can add some new definition of purpose, and that's good. That's just the way life is.
Yeah. 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 And it's so often, I think, what holds us back from, like, start creating a new purpose is fear, right? Is fear of failing, or fear of feeling silly and not knowing what we're doing. And I'll never forget, Lenny and I did, we had a lady, Pat, we interviewed her, and she is in a drum circle. She drummed, like, that was her thing. She had this group of folks that she would drum with. Up here in the Lehigh Valley, there's like a community of people that they get together and they drum, and it's like a therapeutic kind of thing. She was like, you guys should join it. And we were like, okay. So we just joined this drum circle. Did it feel silly? Yes. I had no idea what I was doing. I was literally using my toddler's Fisher Price drum because I didn't have the nice drums that the other people had, but it was something different. It was fun, and so it's purpose. It's, like, just being kind of getting outside our own heads sometimes to connect back to mental health, and just say, we're people, we're human, we make mistakes, but there's so much joy that can be on the other side of that coin if you let yourself be brave enough to kind of step into it.
So apologies for some technical difficulties on my end. As people with ALS know, technology is really important for living with ALS, and sometimes it works out great, sometimes it doesn't. And usually, a lot of those technical problems are minor and can be fixed with just a little bit of ingenuity, like me replacing my microphone. So we're talking about the purpose that you have in life as a person with ALS, as a social worker, just a human being. And one way that we can find some great purpose is through the upcoming ALS United Walk. Jessie, I'm looking forward to it. It's coming up this September 27th in Allentown, and it's always a really easy event. It's not like it's a strenuous day for anyone in particular, but it's a very uplifting day. So tell us about the Lehigh Valley ALS United Walk.
Yes, thank you, Tony. We're excited. So it's Saturday, September 27th. at Cedar Crest College, which this will be I think our fourth, no, maybe third year there. Um, and this is the walk in the Lehigh Valley community has been going strong for over 20 years. I think we had our 20th anniversary a couple years ago. And so it started as like just a desire to bring the community together, and raise support and awareness for folks living with ALS and for ALS United. And it's grown to really be a joyful day. We have families that come who, maybe their loved one passed 10 years ago, 11 years ago, but it's just a joyful day to be together. And they make, families make t-shirts. We have folks who have just been recently diagnosed, and, they oftentimes, a lot of times people will say, like, people want to help. My family wants to help, but I don't know what to tell them to help with, And I always tell folks, I'm like, you know what? Put somebody on this, like form a team. It's a way to show your outpouring of love too for your loved one and your community. And it's just a great day. We have a lot of fun. No matter the weather, we've had days that are pouring and it doesn't stop people from coming, or we've had days that are just beautiful. And, so yeah, it's Saturday, September 27th. You can go on the website and form a team. Yeah, it's a great day. We'll all be there. Lehigh Valley has a clinic. We have a crew. We have a team, and it's a fun day.
Yeah, I love seeing the Lehigh Valley Clinic team because I don't see them too often. So Dr. Walsh, Dr. Romano, yourself, and others, and a lot of our sponsors, especially Sam Adams Brewing. They always have a huge team. It's very important to them,
Yep.
and it shows our connection. We have 7 ALS United walks throughout the year, and so maybe Allentown's not close to you, but you can find more of them at our website, alsmidatlantic.org. And Jessie, that's also if they want to reach out to you and they have a question about living with ALS, your contact information is also on our website, as is all of our care services team. So you would encourage people, if they've recently had an ALS diagnosis in the Allentown, Bethlehem area, reach out to you and find out what questions should I ask next and what are my next steps.
Yeah, absolutely. It's thank you, Tony. This was great. It's so fun to do this with you. Thank you.
So I encourage everyone, if you are living with ALS, recently diagnosed, or have a family member, and you just have a question, reach out to our care team. We have such great care professionals like Jessie, and our nurses and social workers and other professionals. And you can find out the services that we provide here at ALS United Mid-Atlantic, or join our walks or other events. That you can find them all at alsmidatlantic.org, and follow us at ALS Mid-Atlantic. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast, leave your comments and reviews so it can move up in postings and visibility. Together we can raise some more ALS awareness. Thank you so much, Jessie. I can't wait to see you at the walk.
Thank you.